A lot of creators on YouTube have had enough of being treated like their work is insignificant and meaningless, especially with people who create content like I do. Content that isn't necessarily sunshine and rainbows by any means. News outlets both on and off of this platform have a much broader range of what is allowed to be said, while channels like myself and many others have to censor our content and dial ourselves back more and more each passing month because what may be allowed on YouTube today can be deemed against the rules tomorrow. But how do we fix this issue without throwing ourselves into another adpocalypse? So I was originally going to end this year off by complaining about something a little bit more lighthearted, talking about my hatred for January and how much anxiety New Year's brings me. But something else has captured my attention, something a bit more cynical, but also something much more important. For those of you who do not know, there is a new video called Pickasideyoutube by a creator known as MamaMax. I will leave it linked in the description below if you haven't watched it already. The video goes over what can at best be described as negligence and at worst be described as corruption behind YouTube's decision making. Now there is a lot mentioned in this video that I heavily relate to due to the nature of the content I post on my own channel. So today I wanted to go over my thoughts on this entire issue and the video itself, as well as my concerns with YouTube's decision making and my concerns with the outcome of this entire situation. So to give you a basic rundown of MamaMax's video, the beginning of the video goes over how Max makes content calling out creeps, for lack of a better term, online. Don't worry, we're gonna get into my wording on that in a second. His content overall is very well edited, it has a very Hotline Miami vibe to it. One of his videos was recently taken down by YouTube regarding a creep on IMVU. According to YouTube, the video was taken down due to a clip displaying a virtual character's pixelated caboose. This went against a terms of service violation on YouTube, and the appeal was rejected almost instantaneously. He received a strike over this despite the fact that MamaMax claimed that YouTube had manually reviewed this prior to uploading it, and it was approved by YouTube staff to be visible on their platform, and was also visible to 500,000 people before being pulled. Meanwhile, there is an entire genre of unclothed yoga maidens on YouTube who seem to be doing just fine and getting no strikes despite showing real non-pixelated that I obviously won't be showing here because this video will get age restricted. MamaMax then hands the mic to about 20 other creators, all who share their own frustrations with how they dance around the way that YouTube constantly shifts the goalpost on what is and isn't acceptable on the platform. The biggest thing about this, however, is that Max really emphasizes that he believes YouTube is choosing, or at least siding with, pedophiles? Can I at least say that? Pedophiles? You know what I'm talking about, those creepy people over the people who are calling them out. He mentions how people who call out these bad actors, which is a very understated term for what I really want to say, are essentially punished for whistleblowing, while these bad actors are able to get off scot-free, which is what brought him to this call to action, which was Pickasideyoutube, wanting everybody to talk about this and tag YouTube on Twitter to get their attention because it's an obvious issue. I'm going to be breaking down my thoughts on this in two sections. The first part will be where I agree and share my own experience. The second part is where I address some concerns I have about this entire situation, because I do have a few. Now, with my own personal experiences, I'm sure that you can already feel my frustrations. Over the past few years, I have noticed that the restrictions, for lack of a better term, on what I can and cannot say have been getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Excuse me, I choked on my own spit and now I feel like I am dying. That's just my soul leaking out, or whatever's left of it. So recently, YouTube has allowed people to now say some naughty words that would originally get their videos instantly demonetized. Words like ass. Like, can you believe it? Wow. But no, in return, certain words have been more and more restricted, especially regarding channels like myself who cover more in-depth and dark related topics, more serious issues, and we essentially have to dance around certain vocabulary words or certain explanations of things in order to avoid being not only demonetized, but also age restricted on YouTube. And for viewers out there, it might seem like, oh, well, these creators only care about making money, and if they can't make money off of their video, they're not going to post it. No, the actual issue here is when your video gets demonetized, it gets pulled from people's notifications and people's suggested videos. Essentially, they don't push it out into the algorithm the way that they would if it were a normal monetized, family-friendly seeming video. So when a creator is complaining about their video getting demonetized, it's much more than just making a couple bucks off of a video. It's actually so much deeper than that, because being monetized means being seen. Not only that, but even if you are talking about a darker subject, if you're putting 80 hours of work into that video, yeah, you do deserve to be paid for it if you're putting that much time and effort into it and you're putting it up on YouTube to be monetized. There's nothing wrong with that either. I just want to make it clear that there are two issues here, and it's not only making money, it's another issue of your videos can absolutely tank if they are not set up the way that YouTube prefers them to be. So while you might be able to say words like ass, what are some words that I actually cannot say without my video being suppressed and restricted and demonetized? Here. And as you can see, some of these words aren't even bad. It's like this word. Like, I really can't say this word. Really? But did you know that if you wanted to enable memberships on your channel, having too many age-restricted videos or videos with copyright issues could actually make your channel ineligible for enabling memberships? The only reason I know that is because I've been trying to have memberships enabled for about 2 years. I had to go in and delete maybe a dozen or so videos that had any sort of potential risk of being age restricted or was age restricted or had a copyright issue, and I had to remove them just to get that perk. So that's another thing too. Like, it doesn't just have to do with making money off of one video. It has to do with your entire channel surviving in this type of environment. If YouTube or anybody from YouTube is watching this right now, I beg you, please fix the way that you have your communication right now. I think it's ridiculous that people have to go to an entirely separate website to get in contact with actual people who run YouTube's company instead of a bot, instead of an automated message. And half the time, it still is an automated message on Twitter from Team YouTube. And not only that, but what's okay today might not be okay tomorrow. As many people have noticed, some creators have posted videos 3 years ago and now they are being removed, and the creators are getting strikes for these videos that were on YouTube for so long because YouTube shifts their goalposts and changes their guidelines. And half the time with certain situations like this, somebody will make a video talking about an issue or a particular person, and that particular person's content will still be available while their video, the person talking about it, gets it removed. This actually happened to me a few months ago. I was making a video on family channels, one of the family channels that I was talking about. I used some of their footage as B-roll, and YouTube removed that video before it was even publicized, saying you can't post videos where you are endangering children. And I was just using B-roll of a family vlogger whose videos are still available on YouTube. My biggest issue is if you are going to allow news outlets owned by actual corporations to talk about certain subjects on YouTube, then you should absolutely be allowing your actual creators to talk about the same things. There shouldn't be a restriction. There shouldn't be any favoritism, because if this is allowed, this should be too. I do think that there are some concerns that I have for the outcome of this video. However, I am worried that YouTube is actually going to do the opposite of what everybody wants. Part of me is afraid that YouTube is actually going to take this as a means to make even more restrictions and possibly create another adpocalypse, which again, a lot of people are saying, well, TehMimi, you're going to put money over the safety of children. As I've discussed earlier in this video, it has so much more to do than just having a monetizable video. If your video isn't monetized, but you have something important to say, your video still might get suppressed. People who are trying to spread awareness and help children are in this category of they can't say what they want to say. And I'm afraid that it's just going to get worse after this. So yes, this is another video where I had to split the filming up between 2 different days, and it is slightly closer to New Year's Eve, actually tomorrow is, and hopefully by the time you are seeing this, it is New Year's Eve and not New Year's Day, but I digress. I overall agree with the bulk of the message, which is the fact that people are trying to speak out against bad actors on YouTube and tend to be punished more than those people in certain circumstances. However, the first thing that really kind of set me back was the message in the beginning of the video saying that he had gotten 20 creators to participate in sharing their experiences of being censored on YouTube, but didn't really give them the context behind what he was going to do with those testimonials. And while this doesn't necessarily change my opinion about the fact that YouTube is definitely censoring content that should be put out there, I do find this to be pretty unprofessional that you are going to be asking several large creators for their testimony about something, but then when you put it in a video, you say that you didn't give them the context of the full situation and they don't really know what this video is for. I think that if you were very confident in your own message, you shouldn't have had to hide it from the people you were asking for these testimonies. Does that make sense? Because to me, it doesn't seem fair to be putting all of these people in your video that don't really know why you're doing this. I think it's very important that when you are a creator and you want to collaborate with other creators, which this essentially is, that you be fully transparent about your intentions and what you're doing. But I think the way this hashtag was done, I think this person who made the video knew that a lot of people would disagree and would not necessarily be on board with the way this was presented. And that kind of goes into my next point, which is the fact that this hashtag, Pickasideyoutube, and he tagged a bunch of creators. Not only do I not find that to be particularly fair, I also find the creators he picked, some of them I question, such as Shane Dawson. I think that when you post this on Twitter, you know that a lot of people on Twitter who haven't seen your video are going to see this. It is definitely going to cater to that type of audience that is going to further perpetuate this idea that YouTube is just genuinely picking over children. The entire message was not just that, and I think that this specifically is going to do more harm than good. And I think that if larger media got a hold of this idea that YouTube is just promoting and is endangering children, it's just going to cause another adpocalypse, which was the stem of this entire situation. The fact that YouTube was censoring people trying to call out these bad actors, it's just going to censor these people even more. Moist Critikal did a very, very excellent job summarizing this entire issue that I'm about to bring up, which, by the way, I know there are a couple of you who have followed me from one of Moist Critikal's most recent videos, and that makes me super, super happy because he is honestly one of my favorite YouTubers at the moment. He made a good point at the fact that it seems like everybody's on the same page here when it comes to the issue at hand, which is there is a problem with the way that YouTube is censoring content, and it is hurting people more than it's helping people. But when it comes to Twitter and the way that this hashtag was, it is sparking a lot of arguments with people. Apparently on Twitter, anybody who has had anything negative to say or any criticism for this hashtag and the way that it was written was labeled as a or a defender, and I don't think that's true in the slightest, and I think that that's a really unhinged thing to say to people because people genuinely are concerned about the way that this can eventually affect YouTube. I think that it has gotten out of control to the point where you have people tagging other YouTubers saying, if you don't talk about this, then you're a defender. If you don't talk about this, then you're on the wrong side, and it's creating a lot of harassment. To me, it personally reminds me of the whole Creepshow art situation from June, where people were harassing anybody who has ever interacted with Shannon. They were saying, you're just as bad as her if you don't talk about it right now. And it's like, first of all, you gotta give people a chance, okay? This is something that just came out, and you gotta give people a chance. And secondly, not everybody is going to agree with the hashtag because people have genuine concerns about it, and that doesn't make them a pedophile offender or somebody who is a pedophile. And this entire discussion is getting so far away from the actual issue, and it is getting so far away from it in such a negative way that I worry that this is just going to make things even worse. I personally think that there is a discussion to be had about how YouTube really needs to reevaluate the way that they monetize and enable content because the restrictions are getting worse and worse. But At the same time, I think that the way in which we need to go about bringing awareness to this needs to be very, very, very careful, because I think that if done the wrong way, it could make things even worse for us instead of better. MamaMax's message is YouTube is picking people over the people calling that behavior out. The way that I'm afraid it's going to get distorted is news outlets are going to pick it up and say YouTube is allowing on the platform, and then YouTube will be like, oh no, we're not, and then they're going to make heavier and heavier restrictions on videos calling those people out, or just any video in general. Does that make sense? That's where my fears lie. That's where everything goes. I think we have to be really careful with the way that we request change, but I think it is important to vocalize our frustrations over the fact that we do need a change. Let me know what your thoughts about this are down in the comments below. Do you think that this hashtag is something that actually promotes the entire cause? Do you think that people shouldn't be worrying about it so much? Or do you think that people have a right to worry about it? Do you agree with this video? Do you disagree with it? Let me know why. I love to hear your thoughts and opinions on these things. With that being said, this is probably my last video of 2021, if not my first video of 2022, and I hope you guys have a very safe and happy new year. I am so done with January and it hasn't even started yet. Maybe I'll save that for the first of the year. I know a lot of people probably won't be interested in that, but I gotta get it off my chest. Thank you so much to everybody who has been supporting me over on Patreon, especially Lewis, Miss Tanisha, Anthony Tressout, and Michelle. That being said, I will see you in the next video or next year, depending on when this is posted.